Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. Right before you is Will Smith, fresh off the movie King Richard. There was a lot of talk and hype about this movie, so I had to go see it. And I did watch it a couple of days ago, and let me just tell you, it did not disappoint. First off, the acting in the movie was first rate. There was not a weak link in the bunch. The girls who played Venus and Serena, Sienna Sidney and Demi Singleton, they were excellent. And I do understand that the one who played Venus was actually left-handed, and she had to learn to play right hand for the movie. And that's incredible, because she had Venus's strokes down pretty well. And they looked, it was authentic. They looked like tennis players. I wouldn't say pro, but they did. It was legitimate. But I will say one thing about this movie. It was more like the story of Venus Williams, which would have been correct because Venus did beget Serena. Before it was, Venus and Serena. Now you can talk about people say Serena Venus, but Venus is older. So it was always Venus and Serena until Serena started to more like dominate women's tennis. But in the earlier days, yeah, Serena was in Venus's shadow. It was all about Venus. And I would say this much. They captured the essence. All of them. All of the actors captured the people who they were playing, the essence, and particularly the mother, played by Anjanou Ellis. We're talking about this was, the whole performances in the movie was outstanding. But this woman, she deserves an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. She deserves that. Even Isha Price says that this actress here captured Oracines' essence. And she did. I would highly recommend the movie. And Will Smith, just the mannerisms, the speech of Richard Williams. Many people had doubts before he took on the role. The coloration, which I find to be ridiculous, to be honest with you. The real Richard is only about 2 or 3 shades darker. It was ridiculous. It's not like Will Smith is high yellow going in there. But, who else could have played Richard Williams, to be honest with you? So Will Smith shut the critics up on that. And these two girls right here, I'm not familiar with them, but this performance was just excellent. And the movie, you can take your kids to it. It was 2 hours long. It didn't seem like 2 hours. It was well worth it. I haven't been to the movies, to be honest with you, in about, I'm going to say 3 years. But, this was a great comeback movie to see. And it did not disappoint. Everything was there. Performance, the drama in the movie, the storytelling in the movie, the flow of the movie. It was truly good. The whole cast there. And I want to get to my personal connection with this family. But before I do that, I want to say this much. These are the courts in which I used to always see them on. These are the courts in Compton, California, on Compton and Lime. When I used to go to work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I had to swing shift from 4 to 12:30. I used to always see Venus, Serena, and Richard hitting on these courts right here. And I would see Venus, wave at people who would pass by. I guess people who she knew on these courts. Yes, these are some of the courts in which they played on in Compton, because they played around at different courts in Compton, Los Angeles, and in Long Beach. And unfortunately, the courts in Compton, where I used to always see them going to the hospital in Linwood, they're chained up now. And I'm just as curious as to why. And they've been chained up for the past 7 to 8 years. And I think this is so unfortunate because it's not giving future champions a chance to become the next Venus and Serena. So I do not know why those particular courts are chained up. Now these courts right here, are the courts in Long Beach at DeForest Park. And as you can clearly see, there's no net on these courts. I've seen Venus, Serena, Richard, and the oldest daughter, Yetunde, on these courts. These are the courts that he was training Venus and Serena on. Yetunde was picking up balls. And I was at another court in front of them. And Richard said something to me about the lighting on the courts. It was in like an afternoon time. And Venus was very friendly, made eye contact. Yetunde was kind of shyish. Serena was just a tiny little thing then. I remember, and I remember them driving up in the Volkswagen that's portrayed in the movie. And I remember Venus looking out the window before they even stepped out of the vehicle. It's kind of funny, your little head looking out. Yeah. And these courts, unfortunately, to this day, they're kind of run down. The nets are gone. Two of the courts have been turned into like a basketball court, which is unfortunate because it's a nice park, actually. And I'm often wondered, why don't they just refurbish the courts there to get people back there playing tennis? But I mentioned to you about my connection to the family. And my connection to the family is through Yetunde Price. I worked with her for 7 years at a hospital called St. Francis Medical Center. And we were co-workers there. This is where I first seen her. I had no idea that we would become co-workers. And we used to chat, talk often. And eventually she mentioned that Venus and Serena were her sisters. But with that, she never tried to get any type of favors or privileges, or she never thought she was special. She was never arrogant. She was just very much down to earth like everyone else. And she was very independent. And I want to tell you something about the way she would think. She had an open mind. She never went with what the vast majority of people are thinking or went with the in crowd. She was her own person. She was very much an independent thinker. You can talk to her about different things. And she was just that open. She would accept or hear sides of all angles, of all areas, of different sides to make a decision. And I can remember I had a different alternative view about AIDS, the origin of HIV and AIDS, and I would speak to her about that. And I can remember I mailed something to Venus when Venus had a fan club, and Venus got it and told Yetunde that some guy from your hospital where you work at sent me this letter about HIV and AIDS. So I think Venus might remember that. But yeah, Yetunde was extremely open-minded. And you know what? Everyone talks about the, vaccine today. She would be very hesitant. She would be the type who would question it. She wouldn't just go along with it right away. She would hear different sides of the story, pro and for, against it, for it, and then make up her decision that way. But she would not go along with the mainstream or what society or what the vast masses of people are doing. She was that type of an independent thinker. And I'm very glad that they did not put the part about her being murdered in there. I don't think that was necessary. It would have I feel, taken the movie and their emotional that they would have had to show for that into a different direction. They kept it in a much more positive way and kept the flow to where it should be in their earlier years, which was very good. But let me just tell you one thing about this here. And I'm showing you a picture of the Ku Klux Klan or KKK. And I want to tell you something how I'm going to relate this to the movie. There was a scene in there where Richard Williams was beaten by gang members on a court. And that was taken from Richard's book, where he claimed that he lost 10 teeth and had about 3 ribs broken. Now, this story right here was from Richard's book. He says that there was a guy being a black boy who was going to be lynched. And he heard about a lynching that particular night, which will be going on. He got dressed up in a Klan uniform. And he spoke out and told them, don't do that. And I want to say something. By me speaking, you can tell that I'm black. And my first train of thought when I heard that story, I'm thinking, When Richard first opened his mouth, they would be able to tell that this is a black man speaking. So I'm kind of thinking, Richard has been known to kind of tell tall tales. He's been known to over exaggerate things, to, say things that are just out there. So that story about the gang members beating him up on a court. And I say that because I have played tennis in those areas, and I know people who have played with Richard. And I have never heard of a story of a gang member beating up someone on a tennis court. Now, I'm not trying to cast, a bad light on Richard Williams. It's kind of funny in a way, though. Funny, but not funny. And I'm not trying to discredit the movie or anything like that, but I'm just telling you that Richard has been known to over exaggerate. And he's a character. And he does say outlandish things. I can remember one day that me and Yatundi, I'd asked her about his story about a UFO. It was something like that. And she kind of laughed it off in a very loving way, a very lovingly daughter way, and said, "My dad, he's always saying things like that." Uh, um, so Richard is prone to tell tall tales, if you want to believe the story from his book, which is not in the movie though. I was just kind of relaying a connective story. But the gang members beating him up on a court, and then Richard said that he came back the next day and beat the head gang member up. And then after that, they left him alone because he started carrying around a shotgun. Why would you take your daughters, particularly when you're mobile? You have a car, a van. Take them to a gang-infested area where you could be retaliated on at any time. So that type of story like that, I'm kind of like, I don't know. But I understand why they put it there. It's good drama. It's a very good backdrop. It's the whole overcoming adversity thing. Adversity and, that's dealing with violence, where you can have your life taken out any moment. It just adds to the larger than life story. And it adds to the legacy and just the whole persona of King Richard. So I can understand why they put that in there. But to be honest with you, I don't kind of believe that story. I've never had problems on a tennis court. I don't know of anyone else who had problems on a tennis court, to the extent where it came to violence. Not saying it didn't happen, but kind of highly unlikely. But you can't take away from what he did, the influence that he left on the game, how that plan that he wrote out. It's kind of like he manifested it. He put it out there in the universe, and it bounced back and came true. This is why your thoughts, your words are very powerful. They can bless you or they can curse you. And in this instance right here, Richard and the world was blessed. And for that, we should all be grateful. Without Richard and Oracene, there would be no Venus or Serena Williams. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Sin Beyond and Through with Monty, and I'll see you all beyond and through.